Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of There's a Will. We have a special couple of guests for you. We have Patrick Patterson from on Skype from Kiev, and he's been doing a lot of reporting, photo reporting, all up and down the front in Ukraine. And we have in the studio Olga Shpak, and she's from
Kharkiv.
Kharkiv. And I never know to say Kharkiv or Kharkiv.
Kharkiv.
Kharkiv, okay. And a marine biologist by trade, and now heavily involved in the aid efforts since the war began. In fact, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got over there? We'll see if we can marry that to Patrick's story of how he got over to where he is.
Well, I'm a marine mammal biologist, and I worked in Russia. My specialization is Arctic whales, and this is what I've done for over 20 years. But I grew up, I was born in Kharkiv, I grew up in Kharkiv, I graduated from Kharkiv University, and only then I went to work to Moscow. And my family is in Kharkiv, and I always, if I wasn't in expeditions or somewhere participating in the conference, somewhere far away, I would always go to Kharkiv very, very often, because it used to be just an overnight train from Moscow to Kharkiv. And so I never lost connections with Kharkiv. I have plenty of friends there, all family, when before the war started, I really, like several days before the war started, I really started to worry, and felt my feet burned. And on February 22, with a small backpack, I took a train to Belgrade and then to Kharkiv, and I arrived to Kharkiv in the morning of February 23.
You took a train from
Moscow to Belgrade, and Belgrade is the closest Russian city to Kharkiv.
Okay.
And then you just cross the border and take a car.
I see.
So I had a day.
Your feet were burning. You knew you had to go. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew I had to go. I knew I had to go fast.
Yeah, and you got there on the 23rd, right?
23rd, still having a day to entertain myself, seeing friends and relatives and niece and nephew.
Yeah, so you came, so Moscow to Kharkiv, it's something you did many times, and then you decided to get there right when you knew the war was breaking out. Interesting.
I didn't know, but I felt.
You felt it was going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, because nobody knew till it actually happened, but there was the idea that it was going to start happening. In the sort of week or two before. It could happen at any time, right?
Yeah.
Patrick, she got back over there from Moscow. What about you?
Which trip?
Why don't you start at the beginning.
This is my third trip to Ukraine, my fourth trip. My first trip I was just on the Ukraine-Poland border.
Yeah.
And so I think my desire to keep going east continued. So right now I'm in Kyiv. I just got back from Kharkiv in a Zoom this week. So it's I don't know. It's the continuation of trying to tell a story that continues.
Mm-hmm. And you're staying a bit longer this time, I think.
I am, yeah. I have a one-way ticket this time. Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure exactly when I'll be going back.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Yeah, I know the feeling well. And you make a few trips somewhere, and then you stay for extended time because there are other things to do, right? And I'm going to come back to Olga. Olga, you've come over to here to get your visa stamp because you're going to a conference, marine biology conference or something?
It's not a marine biology conference, but in the end of April, a friend of mine from the United States, she's a writer, she invited me to take part at the Science Writers Conference to talk about how war in Ukraine affected science in the Arctic, because I used to be the Arctic scientist. And at that time, I thought that either the war and the conference will take part in the end of October. So at that point, I thought, well, I hope the war will be over, or if it's not, then I think I will deserve a 2-week break.
In the States?
Right, in the States. Yeah,
you
so
need
I
a
accepted.
break.
So accepted that invitation, and the war is not over. But I think I'll make this trip useful. It will be a good change, because to be honest, I'm tired. We are all tired. All volunteers are tired, I have to say. But also I hope that this trip will be useful, and I'll be able to meet with people in the United States and several states, and talk about what's going on, talk about our experience.
Well, how has it affected your research, the war?
My research,
Or whatever the topic of your...
my personal research is done. It's over. I'm not coming
What will you
back.
tell them when you make your talk? I suppose that's the question.
I don't know yet, and I will not talk about it now, because it's no fun. Not to tell things before.
You want to keep it so it's fresh when you tell it?
Yeah, of course.
Next time. Oh.
And then we haven't agreed. There will be several speakers, and we are still discussing how better to build the session.
But I guess it's affected your job by just making it impossible to do it.
Yeah, I lost. It's not that I lost. I quit my job.
Okay.
I quit my job. As soon as the war started, I understood that I'm not going back to Moscow, and I worked there for many years, and I have a good team of colleagues. We are all friends. We really worked as a tight team, because our work is always a lot of expedition work and some pretty tight conditions we worked at. So we were always close, very close to each other. And to me, it wasn't just the end of work, but to me it was the end of all my life, and basically losing good friends and colleagues. But I didn't hesitate a second.
You didn't hesitate a second to leave.
No.
Do you? It's hard to speculate on whether that can ever start again, too, isn't it? There's no way to know.
You mean my work?
Yeah, over there. Yeah.
Over there, I don't think so.
I think you need to
Maybe
try some warmer waters. Yeah.
I don't like warm waters, to be honest. I may actually, in the beginning of my career, I used to work in the Black Sea. So when it's over, and hopefully we'll get Crimea back, I may do some marine mammal work, dolphin research in the Black Sea. But I'm very attached to the cold waters. So maybe I'll be back to science. Maybe I'll go to some European universities, US universities. But at this moment, I see how much, at this moment, when the war started, science, which I always thought was the most important thing in my life, and I couldn't think of myself without thinking of what I'm doing. Since the first day of war, I literally forgot about science. I apologized to all my colleagues that I will not be answering work emails, because of course we are writing papers, we collaborate with a lot of foreign researchers, and I asked for help, and I said, I'll be here. I came to Kharkiv. I'm going to stay in Kharkiv. I will be doing what I can to help people, to help soldiers as well. And if you want, you can help. But sorry, I will not be doing any work, research work, or writing work until it's over.
And what kind of volunteer work, or what kind of work have you been doing?
I started on the second day of war, and first I volunteered at the shelter right in the middle of the square the biggest square in Kharkiv, right in front of the Oblast administration building, the one that was heavily bombed from the planes. But then I switched to work with the public organizations, звичайні люди. In English, it's called ordinary people. And it used to be, before the war, it used to be a small public organization that mostly worked with the children from poor families. But then at the beginning of war, through the kind of self-organization, it turned into a relatively large volunteering project, which now unites more than 100 people. So we work with several international foundations, and we do a lot of work helping civilians. Of course, it's our major task, and we deliver humanitarian aid to. When a lot of Kharkiv Oblast was occupied, we delivered humanitarian aid to the gray zones, to the heavily shelled zones, and now when most of Kharkiv Oblast is deoccupied, we deliver humanitarian aid to those deoccupied areas where people still need water and food and hygiene and some clothes and bedding. So we try to help people to get back to relatively normal life, and we're also preparing for winter now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you were there when the offensive began, Ukrainian offensive. And Patrick, you were there too, right? Or you went over?
I'm sorry?
Were you there when the Ukrainian offensive began? Or
I was.
In Kharkiv? What was that like?
I wasn't in Kharkiv, I was in Kyiv.
You were in Kyiv. Yeah, you went after that.
Yeah.
What was
But
it?
it's,
Well, go ahead. Go ahead, Patrick.
No, I was just going to bounce off what Olga was saying about the humanitarian work and the needed supplies. It's an incredible feeling to be in a community and realize that all the people that you're walking next to and speaking with have not had electricity, power, gas, or mobile service for such a long period of time, and just how disconnected they've been from what's been the rest of the world, and not knowing what's going on in some of these occupied territories. So I think that's the big thing, is that trying to get prepared for winter is on everyone's mind right now.
Yeah, because we don't know what's going to happen in the winter, except there's going to be less energy.
We don't, and it's not only less energy. Preparation to winter also includes some fixing of the ruined, damaged buildings, because people have no windows, people have their roofs broken. So first of all, we have to help people to prepare their houses for winter, but then we don't know whether there will be less energy or whether there will be no energy, because we don't know what to expect from Russians.
Well, from Putin, yeah.
From Putin, because the huge power station in Kharkiv region has already been targeted, and we already had serious issues with the electricity, and especially when it comes to the town, when you have problems when your electricity is down, then you will not have water because the pumps will not work. Mm-hmm. Those people who don't have gas in the houses, in the apartment buildings, but rely on electrical stoves, they can't make food, they can't heat their
if they're on
flats.
electricity, they're in trouble.
So,
but,
yeah.
They'll be in trouble with gas too if they cut that off, right?
Yeah, easily, because if they target a critical infrastructure in Kharkiv and in the region, we can be cut off of everything. So we have to be prepared for that too. Like, this is a bad scenario. We hope it will not happen, but we have to be prepared for that, because unfortunately it could.
Okay, thanks for that, Olga. Patrick, what does Kharkiv look like to you as a photographer, as a person who who doesn't is not resident there or born there like Olga.
Yeah.
What does it look like to you?
It's quiet. You can tell that there's an absence of people. When it was fascinating when the sun set, unlike Kyiv, every single city light is completely off. So the only lights you see are coming from cars or people using their cell phone lights to navigate the sidewalks. So the difference between going from Kyiv to Kharkiv is you feel like you're right there. Kharkiv is still getting shelled. Everywhere you look, there's the infrastructure is heavily been damaged heavily.
How bad does the destruction look?
I think it depends on what area of Kharkiv you're in. In and around the rail station is going to be less destruction than north of the city. There's areas northern part of Kharkiv that are completely destroyed.
There's complete devastation over neighborhoods and areas of the city. Is that what you?
It's different. Some districts are really, really heavily ruined. Some districts are better, but pretty much the entire city, I can't think of an area where there would be no shelling at some point, but some regions are definitely worse than others.
Right, and when you're there, when you're living there, you're hearing this because you've been there the whole time. But were you hearing things when you were? Do you hear the shelling in the distance? Do you hear planes overhead, or?
Not when I was in Kharkiv. When I was in Izum, I could hear artillery, and.
Tell us about Izum. Well, let's hold that till the next segment, yeah, because you've been doing some reporting, photo reporting, and are you writing as well, Patrick? I don't know.
I'm journaling. I add. I have a little bit of writing that goes along with my photographs, but mostly pictorial.
Yeah, mostly photographs. Yeah, and because we'll come back and talk about that, what he's been witnessing over there, and Kherson and things like that. I really just wanted to sort of introduce you both and what you've been doing in this section, and talk a bit about Kharkiv. Now, going back, I mean, being there, it must be frightening at times. Well, is it?
I would be a psycho if I said no. It's not frightening. It is frightening, but it's not this acute feeling of fear, but it's just this tiresome feeling that you can't be relaxed all the time, and those days
the whole time,
there are a few
under
days
stress.
when there was no shelling in Kharkiv, and then you understand that you start feeling this quietness, and then you don't know what to you don't know how to feel. You don't know what to expect. It's strange. Because Russians used to, then they changed it from time to time, but Russians used to do this. They had kind of schedule of shelling. And for a certain period of time, they would start at, let's say, at 11 p.m., and they would be shelling until 1-ish a.m. And then at 11 p.m., you're kind of ready. And that's okay. But then they started to change, and then they started to shell in the middle of the night, like between 3 and 4 in the morning. This is more difficult because you fall asleep, and then you don't know what to. You don't sleep normally, or some people don't sleep normally. So, and then they started to shell during the daytime on the streets and the intersections. So then you understand, okay, it's dangerous to be on the street. And some people, that's why some people, they can't live normal life because they are afraid. They're afraid that shelling can't find them anywhere and at any time. Those people who work like us, who do some volunteering work, to be honest, we kind of don't pay attention because it's just you can't work. You can't, and we work 24/7, and we can't pay attention to alarms. And there was some shellings really close to us, and when our windows start to tremble in the volunteering center, yes, we kind of try to get inside the building and be further from the windows. But this is pretty much, that's it. This is what we do. Because otherwise, just you can't listen to these alarms all the time. Plus, Kharkiv is so close to Belgorod that usually first the rocket hits and then the alarm goes off. So then it's already like, okay.
It hits before you have the alarm because these rockets are coming from Russian territory.
But it's like what,
not
40,
so far
40
away.
40 kilometers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow. Patrick, you heard in one of your videos you sent to me, you said that you were pretty close to some shelling there as well, weren't you?
I was, yeah.
Yeah. Was that that's in this area, the northeast? Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which were. Go ahead.
But no, but it appeared to be outgoing artillery.
Outgoing. That's much better. Still loud though, isn't it? Yeah.
You can still feel the ground.
Yeah. When you come out, Olga, when you left Kharkiv to come over here, were you in a hurry to get back, or has it been nice to take an extra few days?
I definitely plan to be back fast. I really hope to get my passport quickly, because my visa, I was told on the phone that visa was approved, so I hoped I took an overnight. I came to Krakow, I took overnight train to Warsaw to be at the embassy at 8 in the morning on Thursday to give my passport, hoping that maybe, if I'm lucky, I'll be given it back the same day, the worst case on Friday. But it's Tuesday, and I'm still here.
Tuesday.
Hopefully I'll get it today. But yeah, I'm eager to get back to Kharkiv, because again, it's such a after this long, you have such a responsibility to and such a feeling towards each other with other volunteers that I really feel bad doing here nothing when the guys work hard.
Yeah, you feel you've deserted your post or something, yeah? And you need to get back to help your colleagues.
I have to go back because because I feel that when I'm away, they have more stuff to do.
Yeah. Yeah, some people get addicted to this kind of situations, and reporters get that, and aid workers get it, this kind of a weird addiction.
It's
to,
definitely.
And when you leave it, you can, or soldiers get it as well. Being at the front, this is well known. I think the aid workers and reporters get it too.
Yeah.
Not only. Okay, we'll come back. Patrick, stay with us. Olga, stay with us. You stay with us, and we'll be back after these short messages. So enjoy them. Welcome back after those thrilling messages. We're back in the studio with Olga Shpak, a marine biologist from Kharkiv, who is in Warsaw with us visiting. We're very glad to have you here, Olga. She's also a friend of Trusty Rusty, who's been on the show many times. He's been doing some great aid performances in Ukraine. And on Skype, or on the horn as we used to call it in the old days, is Patrick Patterson. Remember that, the old days when they called it being on the horn? Remember that?
I don't.
You're from Texas. You could get it could be confusing.
I could be, yeah.
No, it could get confusing.
Absolutely.
This concept of...
I think we could go many ways with that.
We could. But let's just leave it at that. And come back to more the subjects of your fascinating travels. I'm very envious of, in my own way, of both of you, because I haven't been able to go and do some of these things, some of the travel. that I'd like to, but perhaps I don't think this war is going anywhere anytime soon. And
Well,
perhaps there'll be some victory laps at some point somewhere. Go ahead,
we'll see
Patrick.
what happens on the 30th.
The 30th
Yeah,
of September?
of September.
What do you think is going to happen?
I don't know. I don't think we can. I don't think anyone knows. I think what's interesting is there's kind of been a switch in rhetoric at the Ukraine Media Center yesterday. There was a panel discussion on some experts talking about the influence now Putin is having from some of his outside people. So there's some talk going about how Putin's not making these full decisions. So as far as like the partial mobilization is kind of being seen as a compromise to a full mobilization within his circle.
Mm-hmm.
So the 30th, we all know that these proxy elections are going to take place, and they're going to claim victory. And at that point, any shelling coming from the Ukraine side in those territories, or any Ukrainian troops on the ground in those territories, in their mind, gives them legal right to be at war with Ukraine. And so I think that's kind of the fear with the nuclear threat is coming after the 30th.
All right, so you're talking about that again. Well, he keeps trotting out the nuclear threat. That's like 4 or 5 times. It's starting to remind me of Saddam Hussein. There's various things to consider now that you've raised this subject, and one of those is that the economy of Russia is about the size of the economy of the state of New York. That the United States economy is 13 times greater than alone, not to mention other Western countries, than the economy of Russia. And that they spend 8% on defense of what the United States alone spends on defense. Again, not including the Western allies. So what do you gain from a tactical nuclear weapon? You use one, then you've got to, what, are you going to use more? Or are you going to terrify everybody about using one? Or are you going to galvanize the whole world against you? I don't know, I've heard someone say that it might be better to explode a device above just to destroy the electric communication, right? To disrupt communication and anything that's operating in the atmosphere, and then to cripple the defense of Ukraine and attack. But I don't think that, as I say, he's sounding more and more like Saddam Hussein, and we all know how that ended. Well, it was a mess, but it didn't end up with nuclear war. Some people are saying that it's more likely Iran would cause a nuclear war. But I'll ask you this, Patrick, sitting there, what do you feel about this prospect, that it might happen? How do you think about it?
I mean, just not in a fearful way. I think for me, it's the risk of being here is there's a risk, but it's a calculated risk, and
yeah.
For me, it's when your time comes, your time comes. Like you're not in control of that. But I don't think of it as I don't think we're going to have a nuclear.
Well, but certainly you can put yourself in more dangerous positions. I mean, I understand fatalism, but a fatalistic attitude. But one can choose to put oneself in more or less dangerous positions and make more or less dangerous decisions in life, right? Mm-hmm. So I guess what I'm saying is, you assumed the risk and you say you have a fatalistic attitude toward it, right? Or you try not to think about it. I mean, that because human beings are very good at that.
I travel with a 2-week supply of iodine pills in my bag everywhere I go. I think that's as much as I think about it. Like if I open my bag and I see my iodine pills, like I'm like, oh, those are there. But I don't wake up every morning fearing that there's going to be a nuclear attack. I worry more about being in the wrong place in the wrong time of having a random thing fall out of the sky besides a nuclear warhead. But
the one you don't
I just don't think about it in that way.
Yeah, that's kind of the way it works, isn't it? Yeah, I found from experience. But the interesting point is, once again, he's trying this, the people are going to vote thing. Everybody's kind of seen that already. The people are going to vote for us, and then we're going to take over the territory. But we've seen that several times before. We saw it with Crimea. We saw it with Donbass. Some of those areas that they took over in 2014, right? So it's not the first time. None of this is the first time. So at what point do you believe the boy who cries, or in this case, the dictator who cries wolf? At what point, maybe Patrick, at what point do you believe the dictator who cries wolf?
Well, I think there are two different situations. I think in 2014, the world didn't know that Putin was capable of losing a war against Ukraine, and having his troops completely, the rate of mortality for Russian troops and Ukrainian troops is much higher on the Russian side. Look on the ground, they're losing the war, and I think that puts Putin in a very tough corner in Russia, with its citizens looking at him, with his members of his government looking at him. He looks like a failure, and he's somebody that doesn't sit well with. And so, kind of what I've always thought of is that it's like a hostage situation where you have two choices: you either give up or you commit suicide. Right? It's that. And I don't think this is any different. He has nowhere to go at this point. I think that's what's terrifying. I think to me and many other people is that he's making these decisions that aren't rational to most people. So I think comparing 2014 to now is completely different as far as taking over territories. Just because then. It wasn't known to the world that he was capable of losing the war, So I mean,
it wasn't so much a comparison, except to say that he's trying this tactic again of plebiscites. We're going to vote, and then that means we own the territory. That was really the only point I was trying to make there. But what do you think? How do you feel? You spent 25 years. What do you think about, or how do you feel about, maybe it's a combination, after 20 years in Moscow and working in Russia, about what the Russians think about this war? We talked about it before, but maybe you'll say something now.
I think that people who surrounded me in Russia, they are not like a statistically valid sample. Scientists are, in general, they're educated people, and they're more cosmopolitan people than the usual Russian. So the absolute majority of people who I used to work with and who I know, they were against this war from the very first hour of war. But it doesn't mean that the majority of Russians thought the same. And then we do see that a huge amount of people we're actually brainwashed, and brainwashed to the point that they absolutely believe in every word said by Putin and Putin's propaganda. And it's difficult to predict. And I every time I talk to people, I feel that I don't have the real understanding of what's going on, because when I talk to my friends, it's one thing, and then when they tell me that they saw the lines in our военкомats, mobilization points, before the mobilization started, then I become really scared. Because there were a lot of people, a lot of Russian men who voluntarily came to those mobilization points, ready to go and fight.
In the beginning? Even recently?
Even recently,
Yeah.
just before mobilization, I discussed with someone from Russia what would this new mobilization be for Russia, and how people, I would expect how they would start hiding or protesting or do something against this mobilization. And he said that he doesn't even understand why this mobilization was needed, because he himself, he saw lines of people standing before this draw. And those people were not sent to Ukraine immediately, but they were made some records, and they were put on hold. So it's difficult to understand the numbers, to understand in numbers what's
there
going
was
on.
also a large number. There were also a large number of people searching on the internet how to break your arm at home, do-it-yourself arm breaking of your own arm, and also people trying to get out of the country.
We saw the lines. We saw the
we were
pictures
looking at
of the lines.
pictures,
Yeah.
and they're freely available out there for people on the border of Georgia.
Georgia, exactly. Huge lines, and the photographs from the airports, from Moscow airports.
Yeah.
Crowded with people trying to get out of the country. But still, again, I don't. But still,
it's hard
I don't
to
know
understand. Russia is a very confusing place to try and understand,
Absolutely.
as all the literature tells us, right? All the great books written by them. Patrick, tell us a little bit about some of the on-the-ground work you've been doing as we're coming to the last 10 minutes of the program.
Yeah, I just came back from the Mykolaiv and Odessa area. I'm doing some work with photographing the grain exports going out. And then recently traveled to Kharkiv and Izum. So the most recent work I've done has been in Izum.
Yeah. And this was, what were you filming there?
I was at a school that had been bombed, that they were still going through to look for remains. And then also on the last day of recovery of bodies from the mass grave there.
Do they know how many people were in this, any estimate of how many people were killed in this area in such a way?
Yeah, I believe, was it four? I'll have to come back on that. It's near the 400 mark. I think it's 450.
440, yeah, 440, 450. Yeah, I think so. But I believe that they were. I haven't been there, Patrick, but I believe that I saw the information that in Izum area there were actually several.
Yes,
several
there's
places like this, several mass graves.
Yep.
So they're not done with that.
And
they're not able to get into those because they're heavily mined right now.
Right.
So they're performing a demining process there in those two mass graves before they'll start.
The graves are mined.
The whole area is mined.
The whole area is mined to hide the evidence, or just because it happened to be mined?
Russians are putting mines everywhere. So, I mean, there's people who are going out and picking mushrooms and stepping on a mine.
Every day, no.
Okay, that's worth saying. As far as these mass graves, these were mass graves organized by the Russians to bury civilians and soldiers, or both?
Both.
Just anyone that happened to have been in the way at the time or involved in the fighting. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, and so Ukrainians, if I'm not mistaken, Ukrainians are the ones that locals of the village are the ones that dug the graves, and they were able to put some of the markings on the crosses of who some of these people are, the date of their death as well, and then some of those, some of that.
The Ukrainians were forced to dig the graves, or dug them of their own accord?
Forced to dig the graves.
Forced to dig them, right. This is an important point, yeah.
So this mass grave site is in a cemetery itself, adjacent to it, in a wooded forest,
Yeah.
and then also within that forest there were tank bunkers from where Russian tanks had been staging. So not only was this a mass grave area, but this is also an area where Russians had fortified with their tank battalions. So they were living in the same area as where this mass grave was.
Mm-hmm. And what was? Did you make it to Kherson as well?
I've not made it to Kherson. I made it almost to the first unoccupied city in the Mykolaiv Oblast there, or the Mykolaiv region, and was turned around at a block post.
Said no further. Yeah, so you're getting close to lines. And what, you're just driving your own automobile through there?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. But I understand the train connections are pretty good, but I guess if you want to, yeah, I know for sure that if you want to get about in the countryside, you need a car. What have I not asked you that you wanted to say? Anything particular about this? No? You're getting a good accounting. What about you, Patrick?
No, I
What can you tell us that we need to know else? Maybe something.
there's a clear absence of American journalists here.
Is there really?
Yeah, absolutely.
They were there at the beginning, and
Yep. But that's the way, right? People come and go, and not many people stay
yes,
for the long haul.
yeah, there were people who came in and took their photographs and got out. It's like that in many of these situations. It's expensive to keep people in the field, and there were some journalists who died.
Yeah.
And that happens, but that's a consideration perhaps by some of the bigger companies.
But this is when we talk about assigned professionals, but the amount of international foreign volunteers in Ukraine and in Kharkiv included is huge, and I'm so impressed how people from all over the world come to Kharkiv and help. Some of them come and go, some of them stay, and it's amazing. It's amazing, like, self-organization, and it's interesting to watch. Like, I would say there are many interesting things in terms of like social studies happening during the war, because it's incredible how people look for each other, how people self-organize, how people set the networks to collaborate together, people without experience. So it's pretty much some kind of natural things, without any order, without any structure. Somehow it happens, somehow it works. And these foreign volunteers, they find the ways to stay and to be helpful and to concentrate on themselves, the help that comes from abroad, and they get in touch with local volunteers so that this help is distributed to the areas where it's needed. It's incredible. People from New Zealand, Australia, or different European countries,
Including
United States,
some of the people we know. Yeah.
Canada,
Yeah.
South America. I've seen Argentinian.
The inflation's lower. Yeah.
Yeah, Olga, I would say that, that's the one thing that really sticks out to me since I've been coming here is that it's the amount of Ukrainians that just stopped doing their professional jobs and immediately just started organizing and volunteering, whether that's supporting civilians or ensuring that military has sleeping bags for the winter, bringing food and supplies to military. It's almost as the volunteers are a separate branch of the military right now, because the military is relying so much on all of these volunteer groups to get supplies to the front line. We just had a call this week. I got a call from the United States that a woman's family member who is on the front lines in the Donbass area, their entire battalion lost all their gear in a fire, and their new supplies are currently in Lviv, and some of the volunteers that I know in Kyiv work specifically with the military, and they're going to get those supplies from Lviv to Donbass. And this isn't
good example. I'm going to have to cut you off because we're
Sure.
running down to time. Thanks for giving us a very clear example of the kind of things that are going on. I think there's 2 points that Patrick made that are very good, other than your point about these sort of serendipitous volunteer work happening. And that was that there appears to be, or there are, in fact, not that many journalists, professional journalists around. There's a lot of volunteers, aid workers, but not so many journalists. And I forgot what the other one was that Patrick made, but it was a good one too. Maybe it was just his expose of the way some of the aid is working. It's very intricate. I mean, I'm sure a lot is going to be written about this and learned from this experience about aid and how to deliver it in the future. Patrick, I want to thank you for being with us from Kiev, old friend, and Mazel Tov. Take it easy. Be careful over there.
Well, thank you.
And mind how you go. And lots of love from us over here in Warsaw. Olga, the same for you. Olga Shpak has been our guest here. Patrick Patterson
Thank you so
from
much.
Kiev. Olga Shpak from Kharkiv, who's in the studio in Warsaw. Thank you very much. Thanks
Thank you, Will.
for being here. I really appreciate
Thank you for
it.
inviting.
And thank you
Thank
for
you.
watching. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you.
Okay. See you next time. Oh, and did I say, by the way, you're looking well. Stay that way.
Me?